Problem for me is that Marcus Rashford has been elevated to heights that I don't think his ability is really at. So, welcome to One-2-One with Simon Jordan. I'm back from a well-earned break, or maybe not. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and of course, continue leaving your questions in the comment section below. But let's get on with this week's show. Look, I've always backed the concept that Rangnick would make them straighten up and fly right, and I felt that whilst there wasn't an elite club on his resume, there is an elite coaching mentality, and that's what other people alluded to. I'm surprised that we've seen some of the performances we've seen. I'm not surprised that we've seen the discourse with players speaking out of turn and this constant treadmill of rumours coming out of Man United, with the latest one being that Marcus Rashford wants to leave potentially because he isn't getting enough game time. Nothing to do with the fact that his performances stink. That seems to have evaded him. But the idea that Rangnick is going to be the manager is beginning to recede in my thinking. I felt that he would come through. I thought that he'd made his position quite clear. And it was interesting the other day on an interview on another platform where they were talking about United's recruitment process and how Ten Hag was someone that might be looked at, and he was very uncommitted to the cause of being involved, because obviously he's going to be part, if he doesn't get the manager's job, of the recruitment brief to bring in another manager, and he seemed to be very vague about it. So it still leads me to believe that he wants the job. I still believe we're going to be surprised by United. I still think, despite the achievements of Arsenal currently, I think United will get fourth spot. I know there's nothing in their form right now which tells you that they will. I think they'll beat Atletico and they'll go deeper in the Champions League, and maybe the argument will look more coherent than it does right now, because what it looks like right now is Rangnick is an interim manager that's divested of authority. The team aren't performing very well. They're between two stools. They don't know whether they're Arthur or Martha. And my argument that Rangnick was going to be the manager looks weaker than it did from the outset. But I still think that it's not a done deal. Pochettino isn't a done deal. The solutions to United aren't set in stone, and if Rangnick can somehow get his authority across to the players and get some harmony and some results in the team, I still wouldn't be surprised if he gets the job. Look, Rashford has got to pull himself together, and the idea that he leaves Manchester United as a way of advancing himself rather than overcoming the challenges. You know, the best players in the world overcome challenges. Teddy Sheringham was talking last night on Monday Night Football about the performances of Rashford and what he's got to do, and he's absolutely right. He's got to knuckle down, work harder, get himself together, make himself a feature of the manager's plans, and earn the right to be back in the team. Problem for me is that Marcus Rashford has been elevated to heights that I don't think his ability is really at. So we've got this expectation. He's better than he is now, absolutely better than he's currently performing. And whether that's because he's psychologically in a difficult place, or simply the whole place is in a little bit of chaos and people don't know what they're doing. But if he leaves United, where does he go? Will there be a queue? Will Liverpool want to buy him? I don't think so. Would Man City want to buy him? I'm not sure, doubtful. Would Chelsea want to buy him? Unlikely. So all of a sudden he's moving himself down the size of clubs. He could go abroad. I get that dynamic. I think Marcus Rashford, for all the good he's done outside of football, has got to do himself some good in football by starting to knuckle down to this period of adversity, get himself together, work his way through this current funk that he's in, and get himself back to a place where he's entitled to be in the team. And if he still doesn't get picked, then he can consider leaving and finding out what those options look like, and then he'll have more options, because his performances, irrespective of whether he's getting picked in starting lineup, will regain people's belief in him. But at this moment in time, he's nowhere near performing at a level for Man United, nowhere near worthy of a consideration for England. So something has to change. I have mixed emotions about Mika Richards. I think some of the things he says are very insightful. I'm not a great fan of the guffawing, and I do think there's an element of, whilst I laughed at it because Roy was being his pantomime villain best and assassinating everybody within a 50-foot radius about the performance of Man United, and Mika couldn't control his spontaneous combustion. I don't think it made great broadcasting. I don't think it gets people to be taken seriously. But I do think at times Mika does say some insightful things. I think he's a decent pundit. I think he's okay. I think he's a nice lad. But I didn't sit there. My first reaction was, that's not god awful. I don't think much of Sky anyway, so I'm always in the camp that I didn't think a lot of what they do is particularly good anyway. But I think Roy Keane was making some very strong reactions, and Mika said something or did something to lighten the subject. And you could run the argument, just because you say something to lighten the subject doesn't mean the subject's taken lightly. Or you can say it lost the flow and some of the resonance of what Roy Keane was actually saying. But I'm not too offended by someone laughing at someone else, because sometimes some of these people in football take themselves far too bloody seriously. Look, with Dillon White, I understand some of his attitude. There's an argument being advanced by Tyson Fury in his camp that he should be grateful for whatever he's given. He should be so appreciative, and the multiple is 32 times his highest earning, and all of that nonsense. But he's the mandatory challenger, and this 80-20 split wasn't necessarily just a given. It was a parameter forced upon Dillon White, and I don't think he should just be grateful to be there. Now, not getting to press conferences and Tyson Fury doing his particular bit now. Tyson Fury is going to spice it up by telling you this will be his last fight. Right, this will be his last fight, about the same time as this will be my last opinion. If Tyson Fury will be fighting again, we're just trying to make sure that pay-per-views are built up on the basis of maybe there's some jeopardy in this being the last fight for Tyson Fury. I don't think it's great for Dillon. I think he should be there. I think he is challenging for one of the greatest prizes in sport, the WBC Heavyweight Championship of the world, and he should do press conferences. Now, I'm sure he's going to do press conferences near the event, but, I think part and parcel of the job that you have, Derek Chisora got very cross with me a while ago because he said I took down his opportunity to put bums on seats by saying he wasn't good enough to fight at world level. Well, Dillon White shouldn't talk down the opportunity of making sure this spectacle is as big as it can possibly be by getting his backside in gear, stop playing games and go to press conferences and do what you should do. Well, Thomas Tuchel, I don't suppose, particularly came to work for Roman Abramovich. So the notion that he should depart out the door because Roman Abramovich has gone in a different direction for the reasons that Roman Abramovich is going, which is probably life preservation, I think Tuchel should look at the landscape. If Chelsea are going to be a competitive team, which of course they are, whoever's going to buy Chelsea isn't going to suddenly want to stop Chelsea from progressing. The question should be, are they going to want Thomas Tuchel? So Thomas Tuchel should be concentrating on the here and now. He should be concentrating on making sure that they finish as high up the league as they possibly can, because there's an argument they slightly underachieved this season. He should be concentrating on them winning a trophy this year, because they've got opportunities still to do so. So the argument shouldn't just be advanced that should Thomas Tuchel be worried or potentially be looking at his future, because his future might be looked at by someone else rather than him deciding whether he's going to stay there or not. Now, the ownership model of Chelsea has built it to a certain point. Chelsea are running themselves now as a business that stays within the confines of financial fair play. So I don't suspect that the new owners coming in are going to change that much. Abramovich was supporting Chelsea, but Chelsea weren't hemorrhaging enormous amounts of money as they have been in previous years, and certainly when he first walked through the door. So I don't think the change of ownership should affect Tuchel. I think he's been put in a very difficult position with the press recently, and I think he's been absolutely right to say, all right now, enough now. I can't answer these questions. I'm not a politician. I'm also not the owner of the football club. So my focus is that I hope Tuchel finishes the season successful with Chelsea, and whatever that looks like, and that he's there to supplement the opportunity and keep the competitivity of the Premier League, because managers like Tuchel are a welcome addition to the Premier League. So I'm more interested in Tuchel being at Chelsea than I am him worried about who's coming in. That's it for this week's edition of One-to-One. Don't forget to let me know your thoughts on Rashford, White and Thomas Tuchel. And of course, keep liking and subscribing as we pursue those 1 million subscribers. And don't forget to leave your questions in the comment section below, and I look forward to seeing you next week.